You are about to be locked inside the Stingray Show, and coming up on this edition, we're going to be talking with a Georgia Bulldog who played tight end at the University of Georgia and played in 40 games with 94 reception for almost 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns, and he was an All-American in 2011. Mr. Orson Charles will join us here on the Stingray Show right now. And with that, Heath and I want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show. And Heath, it's been a while since we've talked with a former Georgia Bulldog. And briefly, let me also say this: after playing at Georgia, he played for the Cincinnati Bengals as well as the Detroit Lions, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Cleveland Browns, and then finished out with the Denver Broncos. He was also a finalist for the John Mackey Award in 2011, which is the best tight end in college football. What do you remember most, Heath, about our guest this evening, Orson Charles?
That's a little too personal, but I'll share it, Stephen. I've been in this SEC Fantasy Football League for like 16, 17 years. And Orson was on a team, several teams of mine, where I just dominated the league and won like 4 years in a row. And yeah, good times back then. But no, Orson was a big time player, man.
Yep.
And just remember, just big play after big play, was always a target. Stephen, if they're going to you on third down, or to keep drives alive, or when the game's on the line, you don't think plays, you think players. That's what
Yeah.
coaches think. Orson got that ball.
Yes.
Orson got that ball during those times, and that says a lot about him.
And Heath, when he went to the NFL, he transitioned from a tight end to a fullback to help out the teams that he played for in the NFL. Please help us welcome to the Stingray Show the All American from Georgia, tight end slash fullback, Orson Charles. Orson, how are things with you, my friend?
All is well. I'm grateful. How are you? Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Orson, where in the world are you coming from today?
So I reside in Atlanta, Georgia.
And what do you do in Atlanta, Orson?
So I have a construction company where we build new construction, subdivision, and then mixed use. So we have a couple of multifamily under our belts right now that we're doing. And then one thing that I'm very most passionate about is my nonprofit where we serve the single mothers, the youth from grade 6 to 12, and then the men. And then alongside that, I am the vice president of the NFLPA chapter here in Atlanta. So just reconnected with my guys and making sure that they understand their benefit, but at the end of the day, understanding that they're not alone in this journey called life.
That is amazing. Thank you for doing all of that great work and giving back and serving others. Tell us a little bit about the single mom thing in housing and what it entails with that, and what's maybe a story you can share with us.
Yeah, so the single mom, I'm so passionate about that because I'm a product of a single mom and I understood just all the hard work, the dedication, the lonely nights, the crying nights that my mom went through.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that she wasn't the only one. So as I got older, a lot of my teammates, they was raised by their single moms. And then when I got done, I'm realizing, hey, there's a void in this single parent community. So when I did my first event called Peace, Praise, and Pilates, I realized that if we can make the single moms understand that they have a community where they can tap into, if they feel good, they'll do good, they'll attain good. So that's where it started, and then I just started creating multiple other events because we kept getting so many positive stories as far as, oh well, I almost gave up, but this event, this woman's poured into my life and so forth. So I have a passion for the single mom because I definitely believe yes, it takes a village to keep. Yes, it takes a village to raise a child, but I also believe it takes a community to keep that village thriving. So that's why we do what we do. So we start with a single mom, and then we go to the youth from 6 to 12. And I did multiple events last year called the locker room because in the locker room, that's where we felt that we can communicate amongst men. So I bring them in, and I ask them one question when we start off: how are you feeling? And a lot of these young men have never been asked that question, but I genuinely care
Mhm.
because the whole scope of the locker room is we want to make sure that they feel seen, heard. We want to reaffirm them, give them the identity that Christ gave them, not social media, and build a relationship with them. Because we're also realizing that a lot of these guys don't have mentors in their life and or fathers. So I have a passion for that, and I have a passion for serving our men's as well, getting us back to our responsibility.
Awesome stuff.
Thank you for that, man.
Thank you.
So, Orson, let's go back to where it all started for you in Tampa, Florida. Growing up, who were some of your idols that you wanted to mold your game like?
Yeah, who's
So
your
a lot,
favorite football players as a kid?
Yeah.
so my favorite football player, just because how he attacked the game, was Terrell Owens. Because I
Okay.
had played receiver, when I first started, so I just loved how he attacked it. Now, all the talking and all the other stuff, I didn't really care for that, but just how he attacked that game, like I really enjoyed doing that. So when I played at Plant High School, I always wanted to, hey, catch the ball and just give my team an opportunity to win a championship, but also be the best player that I can be, because I knew if I was my best, then it will raise the level of everybody else, and then we'll win the big ship. So Terrell Owen was probably one of my favorite players. I just enjoyed watching him play.
Yes. So, Orson, coming out of high school, you were a four-star recruit. Who all was recruiting you out of high school to come play for them in college football?
So I got recruited by everyone, and I was grateful for that, because when I first transferred to Plant, my first scholarship was Iowa, and then my dream school offered me, which was Miami, and then like all the other schools started coming, but a
Right.
bulk of the bulk of the schools started coming after we ended up going to the states, and we went in states, and I got Mr. Florida and so forth. So then everybody started coming, and I realized that I wanted to make a sound decision as far as where I was going to go, because these were going to be the next most important 4 or 3 or 5 years of my life.
Right.
And I knew that, hey, I didn't only want to just put all the emphasis on football, which was going to be good, but I wanted to put it on life after ball, because we understood that it was going to be over at some point. So
Yes.
Georgia came about. Every time I went up there, like I just felt the family atmosphere. Like I just
Right.
felt, and Coach Rick is just a wonderful guy. Me growing up in a church, my backbone is very important to me.
Yes.
When I sat with him, yes, we talked about the Lord, but he also said something where it brought it back in full circles why I served the man. He was like, "Hey, Orson, I understand that you're a good football player, but I'm here to make you a better man, because there's not enough leaders out here." Not knowing that he was just discipling me, like he was just pouring
Mhm.
back into us. And that speaks volume over anything. Because you go to all these other schools. I went to Florida, I went to Southern Cal, like I went to all these other schools. All they was talking about was football. When I came to Georgia, we went to Rankin. We talked about our classes. We talked about our schedule. I talked to Coach Rick. We talked about, like, he didn't lie to me. He was like, "Hey, if you perform good, which I believe that you can, you'll get some playing time. But hey, let me tell you about something that's really more important than ball." So just fell in love with it. And then the cherry on top, my high school quarterback already committed, so I had to go be there with my guy.
Yes. And before the break, we were talking about your recruitment and you talked about your time at Georgia, but you also got a recruitment from the University of Southern Cal. And at that time, they were a juggernaut. What was that experience like of going out to USC?
It was beautiful. Like that was my first time going out there. I've heard so much about Pete Carroll. I heard so much about USC. Like it was beautiful. And I got time to spend time with him. He took us in his car. We rode the beach. But the main reason why I went out there was just for my mom.
Yeah.
Like she'd done so much for us, my brother and I, and she never been able to travel. So I was like, hey, I never been, she never been. They're paying for it. Why not just come out there? and she just fell in love. She just fell in love with Pete Carroll. I fell in love with the team. Just the high energy practice was, and just even the meeting room. I'm like, wow. So it was definitely beautiful. And then when it came down to making my decision, it was very hard, very
Yes.
very hard.
So, Orson, let's go on ahead and talk about something that a lot of people remember you for. Unfortunately, on your recruiting trip to Florida, you accidentally dropped the National Championship Trophy and it broke and shattered. Walk us through that whole experience, please.
So every time that story comes up, I'm being remembering. I'm remembering like my heart pounding and just figuring out what is about to happen. So I go to Florida. Aaron was probably a day out. Like I think he was coming from an event, and we go to Florida, and it was me, my coach, and a couple of other players. And I go meet Urban Meyer. We watch practice. I met Tim Tebow. We went to a couple of his classes. And then before we're about to leave, they take us up to the swamp to go have lunch. So as we're going to have lunch, like they have this wonderful spread. And then across the room, I see the national championship trophy and the Heisman trophy. And then obviously, when you're going to a college, like that's your desire. Like that's what's going to inspire you. Like, hey, I want to win a Heisman. If I don't, let's get the natty, right?
Yes.
So I go over there and I'm taking a picture of the national championship trophy. It's so beautiful. Now, mind you, there's just a little gap in between it. So I have room to kind of get between and just take a picture. So then when I turn around to take a picture of the Heisman trophy and then I kind of squat down and take a picture of Tim Tebow, all of a sudden I hear the ball because the ball was on three palm, right? And it was open. It was like open. It shakes, it hits the table, nothing happens, and then hit the floor and shatters. And when I tell you, you can hear a pin drop in the swamp. Like nobody said nothing. If you can remember that Southwest commercial, Ever Want to Get Away, like that's how I
Yeah.
felt. I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And it wasn't until I want to say one of the coaches said something, and we all just kind of like try to help kind of sweep it up to make sure like, oh, we're all good. And then word got back to Urban, and he was like, hey, I guess you're a Gator now, right? So it was very hard. It was very hard for me to say, hey, I'm going to Georgia at signing day. But that
Right.
was one of the scariest moments. One of the scariest because I thought that it was going to make me pay for it, and I was about to be a college student. I didn't have that money.
And Orson, thank goodness we didn't have social media back
I
then
know.
or like it is today. Because, buddy, if that would have been put on social media, oh my gosh.
For real, you're not lying about that.
Right.
Orson, looking back at your high school career, was it just big kids beat up on little kids? Because it just looked like it wasn't fair. Because you
You,
you got to play with your college quarterback in high school, and it just am I wrong with that? It was just big kids beat up on little kids, and y'all just dominated.
you would think that, but in the state of Florida, it's competition week
Yeah.
in, week out. And what separated Plant from everybody else, because I came from Riverview and my size didn't change. The only thing that changed was just how smart the coaches was or
Mm.
are and how they put you in a position to win. Like when I say Coach Wiener, Coach Harold, Coach TJ, like everybody within that field house to like midnight, figuring out a way for us to win and put us in the position to play together, but then
Right.
also go out there and go beat them and play as a team. Like that was like we clocked so many hours practice after practice. We clocked so many hours practice before practice. Like we took advantage of all those 7-on-7 tournaments out in USC. We went to Oregon. We won that. Like there was a lot of like meshing of the glue that we had to do. So I take no credit at all.
Right.
I take no credit at all because the reason why we were able to win was for sure our coaches, 1,000%. It was night and day. Like we playing in college and high school.
Right. So, Orson, let's go to the first time you took the field in a Georgia uniform, and it actually came on the road in 2009 against Oklahoma State in Stillwater. Talk about that experience of getting your first action as a Georgia Bulldog on the road at Oklahoma State, please.
I'll say this. It was a dream come true, one, yes. But I felt that it slowed down in a sense because you have to understand the defense that we was going against. Like during training camp, like we were going against Jarvis Jones, Gino, like Rennie. Like we had some boys on defense. So when we're going against somebody else, yes, you gotta put forth that pressure. But it was like I played against a better defense. Now, did everybody else feel that? I'm not sure. But when I stepped foot there, and I want to say I got my first catch, I was like, okay, we can settle in now. We can settle down, right? And then we'll lick our wounds. We'll learn from these mistakes, and then we'll get better. But then it was like, all right, you can get better. How can you get your team better? Because we're better than this.
Yes.
So that was my whole mindset, kind of my freshman to my sophomore into my junior year. But it was a dream. It was a dream come true because every kid dreams of going to college and playing in their first game, right? And some kids accomplish that, but some kids don't. So it was like, all right, I did that. All right, like what's next?
Yes.
Like, hey, how can we like win this thing instead of just being glad to be here?
Right.
Orson, looking back at your career, and this could be high school, this could be college, this could be in the NFL. Who was the biggest trash talker? Who just would not shut up? It could be somebody in practice. But who was it that just ran their mouth nonstop?
Pac-Man Jones.
And what would Pac-Man say? Now we are a family-oriented show, but what are some of the things that you can share that Pac-Man said?
You know what? I can't even remember because it's one of those things you have to tune him out.
Right.
If you want to stay on your game, you have to tune him out. And he knows him, Drake Kirkpatrick, like Vontez Burfict, like they know if they get in your head, they got you.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, I'm going to tune you out, and then I'm going to focus on hitting you or catching this ball. But those was probably one of the big, definitely Pac-Man, probably one of the biggest, trash talkers. But on the other side, the best teammate. Like he talked trash because he wants to build and push you in ways that other people may not. And he is the best. Like he'll ride and die for you. So it's one of those bittersweet things. I love Pat.
So Orson, a few weeks later in 2009, you got your first touchdown as a Georgia Bulldog as a tight end against Arkansas at Arkansas on a 44-yard touchdown pass. Walk us through that play as you remember it, please.
So I know we're facing towards the end zone, and we've been kind of baiting them in. And Joe Cox and I, we've kind of been practicing that play, reading it, because if it's like cover two, then I'll bend it. It was predicated based off of the defense, right? So if it was one, I'll keep it high off the hash. If it was two, I'll bend and he'll hit me. And I remember Bubbo calling a play before, and it was practicing cover two, and we knew that they was. So I was like, all right, if he called this play and they go back to cover two, it's going to be the touchdown. But as you're going through that, your whole thing is, hey, don't drop the ball. Like, hey, catch the ball and just run. So I called the play, read the defense, I bent that linebacker. They played cover two, found a sweet spot. Joe threw a wonderful ball, and I just wanted to capitalize on it.
Right. So, Orson, let's go, because you are from the state of Florida, and now playing at Georgia, you are on the other side. Talk about your first taste of the world's largest outdoor cocktail party there for you in 2009.
I got chill bumps. Like I was ready to go out there and just show them up because, obviously a Florida kid going to Georgia, you have everybody counting against you. And it was like Aaron and I had a chip on our shoulder to let them know, like,
Yeah.
no, we made the best decision and we're going to beat you, Urban, because like we just didn't like how he recruited us. I didn't like just some of the stuff that he was saying. Like, I just didn't get a feel for it. But then obviously, like, that's a prime television, like, watch game. So you want to show up because, you know, everybody back home is going to be watching. And I remember just on the bus pulling up and you can kind of see the split. And I was like, oh, let's go. Like, let's go. So at that moment, I realized, oh, this is for real.
Yeah.
And you got to put your best foot forward to help your team win.
And Orson, first, I'm going to talk about Coach Rick, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. But what's a fun conversation that you guys? Well, I'll even ask you about this. I always enjoyed when Coach Rick was having summer practice, getting ready, fall camp, getting ready for the season, because he would take you guys to the swimming pool one day, and he would go off the high dive. You guys would make all the freshmen go off the high dive. The high platform, whatever you want to call that thing. But what was that day like? Is it a little hazing going on? Like, no, you going up there, you're going to jump. But what was it when Coach Rick did his dive off that thing every year?
It's one of those things. Now, we all knew that we're going to the Ramsey. Like, every year we're going to go to the Ramsey. You just never know when. And this is their camp. So we're out there full pads. We're hitting it. Our body's tired. It's just football 24/7. We're not seeing nobody else. And at some point, we just want to break, right?
Yeah.
So every year we're going into the locker room. We're like, hey, we're going to the Ramsey. We're going to the Ramsey. And when we do end up going to the Ramsey, everybody's excited. And then we go over there, and I can remember my first time going over there. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I know how to swim, but I never jumped off of anything that high. And it's something different. Like, something clicks when you see your coach do it. Effortless. Like, just effortless. And then it's like, okay, if he can do it, let me go ahead and do it, right? So I remember going up there, and they're like, hey, whatever you do, don't Betty flop. Like, just go down there. Don't try to do any flip. Just go down there like a missile and close your eye. And I did it, and I believe it unlocked, hey, I can do anything, right? Like, it breaks that barrier.
Right.
So to see Coach do it every year, and for us to do it every year, I believe it's just going into the season, hey, you can do anything you put your mind to it. And I believe, like, him doing that was very strategic. Just a wonderful man all around. Just a wonderful guy.
What's a conversation that you had with Coach Rick off the field? It could have been about football. It could have been about life. It could have been about God. It could have been about anything. But what's a conversation that you had? Because I always thought the world of Coach Rick, and I still do.
Yeah. So obviously he has so much wisdom, to the point where, like, you ask him a question, he's going to ask you questions for you to think, but then he finds a way to always bring it back to the word. And in every conversation you have with him, you could just see his pure, genuine heart. So when people was like, hey, Coach Rick wasn't hard enough, it was like, no, he was very hard. He was very hard and stern on us, but it just really depends on, hey, how cooperative were we going to be, right? So I remember conversations that we've had, and he was just asking questions, hey, well, how can we get the team to buy in? Like, hey, what are some things that I can do? What are some things that I can't do? And for a guy that's been coaching for decades, asking some of the players that, because I remember we had a team meeting, I found that very commendable, right? Like, because he wasn't stuck in his ways. Like, he was always willing to adjust and pour into us any way he see fit. So, like, I think the world of him. I went to Aaron Murray golf tournament last year, talked to him, kind of sat down and talked with him, and he's going through his thing. And one of the main things that he said is that he just want to finish the drill. And I was like, hey, Coach, I'm going to keep you in my prayer, and I'm gonna check in with you. So, yeah, I love Coach Rick. I love Coach Rick.
So, Orson, let's continue with the 2009 season with you being from Florida, you got your first taste of clean old-fashioned hate between Georgia and Georgia Tech. Talk about that first taste for you in 2009 of that bitter rivalry of the team from Atlanta versus the team from the Athens, Georgia.
To be honest, I was like, why is this a rivalry? Like, if it was my rivalry was Florida, and I felt like that was a rivalry. Like, why are we considering Georgia Tech a rivalry? Like, they're running this wishbone. No, everybody play your gap, hit them in the mouth. They're Georgia Tech. They're not really here to play ball, and let's get this W and win. So I never looked at them I never really looked at them as a rivalry. But then I'm not from Atlanta. I'm not from Georgia, so that's to be fair. My rivalry game was during a cocktail party against Florida.
Yes. So Heath, you good?
No, I got folks in the kitchen, man. I'm sorry.
Okay, so you want me to continue?
Yeah, you continue. I'll give you the thumbs up when
great.
The tail barrier gets clear.
Thank you. All right. So sorry about that, Orson.
You're good.
All right. So Orson, to finish off the 09 season, you guys got to face Texas A&M in the Independence Bowl. Talk about that A&M game there in 2009.
I believe we was upset. Yes, we was happy that we was able to go to a bowl game, but I believe we was upset that we went to the Independence Bowl because we were so much better than what the record showed.
Right.
And my first time going there and going through bowl practice and so forth, I was definitely happy about it, but I was like, no, we gotta do better next year. So I want to say we went, we experienced it, and it was like a bittersweet taste in our mouth, understanding that, hey, we're better than this, and we have to buy in because it shows when we don't.
Yeah.
Orson, back during your playing days, and you talked about some of the rivalries and some of the things like that. Which one game that sticks with you and why? Was it a loss that kind of eats at you, or is it another game where you guys came back, won a big time matchup?
It's always the loss that sticks with you because
it sticks with all of us.
You're going back and seeing, hey, if I would have studied more, or if I would have practiced a little harder, or if it was ones against ones, could I have given them a better look? Or like when you're in the game, could I have ran a better route to get the ball thrown? So you're dissecting, not saying that you're not going to dissect the ones that you win, but you're dissecting the ones that you lost, because that feeling, it hurts because you know that we're better than this based off of how we practice.
Right.
And yeah, I can remember the LSU game that we lost.
Okay.
I can remember the Florida game that we came close. I believe it was Urban's last year in 2010. Like, I can remember those games that we lost, and it was like, it was just one game to just take us over that top.
Right.
Which is always that one game to be like, okay, we're here, right? And I had that perspective. I don't know if everybody, I can't speak for anybody else. Like, even me going into the league, I remember my first year at Cincinnati, we go to the playoff and we're playing Houston. And I'm having to block J.J. Watts. And it's like, if I would have head across, we had won my first playoff game, right? So it's always the ones that you lose that you kind of ponder on to see how you can get better, and then you go do that same thing in practice.
So Orson, let's move to 2010. And one game in particular, Georgia goes over to Mississippi State and loses 27-10. Talk about that experience of being in Starkville and having to deal with the Cowbells, please.
Man, I hated the Cowbells. I was like, put those bells down. I hated the Cowbells. And that was one of the games where we was I have no idea. Because we had like a great week of practice.
Right.
In 2010, that's probably one of the best teams that I played on. And for some reason, we just couldn't get it together. And I have, like, to this day, I still don't understand and know why. Like, it was definitely frustrating. It was definitely frustrating. And I believe if we would have went there and won that game, that year would have been the year that we probably would have went far. So yeah, it was definitely frustrating. Every second you hear the bell ringing, I'm like, bro, let's win this game and get out. But yeah, that was one of the games that we wasn't clicking for some reason.
Right.
Orson, I know we're up against a break, but I have heard with the cowbells, it's loud in the huddle, but when the center gets over the ball and they stop the bells and start yelling, they say that's an adjustment, that it's hard to because you can't practice that.
You
Is
can't.
that really that hard of an adjustment where it's just throwing you guys off?
Yes, it is.
Why? Tell us about it. What is so hard about going from cowbells to everyone just going yelling nonstop when the center gets over the ball? I know it's two different noises, but what's the hard part to adjust to?
The sound.
Interesting.
Like, yeah, it's the sound. Like you hear, like you get custom of hearing one sound, and then when it dies out, okay, you're good. But then it's a different type of sound that gets to you. So then you're like, oh, you're fighting that sound. Dang, what's the play again? Oh shoot, I gotta read the defense. Oh, it's like so much going on in a short period of time.
Right.
Short time. So it's definitely the sound. They know what they're doing. They definitely know what they're doing. That crowd is the 12th man.
Yeah. And later that season, Georgia had the odd opportunity to go to Boulder and face Colorado out there in Colorado. Orson, what was that experience like? Because not a lot of SEC teams have the opportunity to play Colorado at Colorado.
I believe we had to get adjusted. Like I believe we had to get adjusted. We was out of breath quicker than normal.
Right.
And then, if I can remember, that's the game that they was trash talking. Like we almost got in a big fight before the game. Like they thought that they can like hold with us. So we go out there, and I want to say we was winning. AJ does this one-handed catch. It was like, all right, let's go ahead and finish these guys. But it was, to answer your question, it was an experience. It was an experience that we will never forget. But it was one of those things that we was like, hey, we should be blowing this team out the water. Like they should not be in the same league with us.
You know, Orson, during your college playing days, and you were talking about you guys were all so close and couldn't get over the edge and this and that. With the college football playoff around, if it was around when Coach Rick was around, he didn't have to be perfect. He didn't have to do all this. I'd like to think that Coach Rick could have gone very far in the college football playoff, how it's set up today.
Yes.
And I think that Coach Rick might have won a national title or two.
Yes.
Am I wrong in that assessment? What year do you think you guys could have made a really deep run and maybe won it all?
2010.
Okay.
20, because we still had AJ. Like that's when Aaron was clicking, and that was his first year taking it over. Like we still had a lot of our guys. Right. And 2010 would have been a team where we would have had time to learn from our mistakes of some of the games that we lost, and we would have applied it knowing that, all right, this is win or you go home. And if we say that we're the team that we know that we can be and know that we are, and we actually want to win this national championship instead of just talking about it, it's time to put up or shut up. So I believe that we all would have clicked in if we had that playoff system that we have today back then.
So Orson, let's move to the 2011 season, the season that you guys made it to the SEC championship game. You started off the season losing to Boise State and then losing to South Carolina, and then rattled off 10 straight wins. What ultimately do you think lit a fire under you guys to start off that 10-game win streak after opening the season 0-2?
They were talking about firing Coach Rick. at that point, it was like, no, you can't take one of our guys. You can't take our main guy, our captain. No. So I remember I remember us having a meeting, and it was a players meeting, and we was like, hey, we need to tighten up because they're talking about taking our coach, and we're better than this. We can still make the SEC. We can still chase our dream, but our coach is on the line. So if it means anything to y'all, let's fight now. And I believe every time we kept winning a game, it was always just a reminder, hey, remember who we're doing it for. We're doing it for our coach. Yes. So I believe that I took initiative of that because I believed in Coach Rick and I believed in our guys. Aaron took initiative of that. It was Jarvis Jones. Like, it was some guys, Rambo, Bakari Rambo. Like, it was a lot of guys that backed me with it to get our team on board to win that 10-game streak. But it was mainly because they were talking about firing Coach Rick.
So, Orson, a quick follow-up to that. What are some of your memorable moments for you during that 10-game win streak in 2011?
How we came together. Like, just the camaraderie we had and how we came together, how we had everybody's back. Like, obviously, we had everybody's back in 09 and 10. But, like, 11, like, it was bigger than us.
Right.
And we all knew that, right? So just for everybody to click in us to win 10 games in the SEC, like, it showed just like us jumping off that cliff. Like, you put your mind to it, anything is possible. But then also, hey, stop fighting for yourself, fight for your brothers.
Yes.
Orson, you talked about the playoff and that 2010 team and everything. You were talking about how it just wasn't clicking. And just, you guys got off to a 0-2 start. What happened in those two seasons? And why do you think it was, the loss in Starkville, the 0-2 start? What happened in your mind and why you guys couldn't start fast?
That's a great question.
Was it just reps? Was it just gelling? Was it timing? I'm sure it was always timing, but
yeah. But
what was it that was keeping you guys from just going out there and dominating like you did the rest of the season?
To be honest, I don't have the answer to that question because I'm not one to make excuse and say, hey, we needed reps or we needed time, because that was everybody's first game of the season.
Right.
So I'm not here to make excuse. I just don't know. I believe we just unfortunately, I believe we needed an extra fire under us. Yeah. So the moment that we started hearing the chatter, oh, it's time for Rick to go. Oh, nah, hey, let's go. Right? Like, let's stop being scared to mess up. Like, hey, let's go full speed in practice so it can resemble in the game. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they're trying to fire our coach. And we don't know who they're going to bring in. So I believe it just took that extra fire for us to snap back into it, unfortunately.
I know the game is different now with the NIL and the transfer portal, but I got a feeling if Coach Rick was still coaching in his prime today, I just got a feeling that his program would be a lot like Clemson. There wouldn't be a lot of guys exiting that program. It would be a very small amount of guys transferring out and that kind of thing. How do you feel about that? If Coach Rick was still around in his prime, do you think that Coach Rick would have the advantage, kind of like what Dabo has there at Clemson, and able to retain guys and guys willing to sit behind, on the depth chart and wait for their time to play? Because I feel like Coach Rick could make that happen.
1,000%, because you knew if Rick was in his prime at Georgia and you wanted to go to Georgia, you knew what you was going to get. Because Rick wasn't going to lie to you. He's going to shoot you straight. And I'm sure he would have found a way to address the NIL deal. So right. You want to come play for Coach Rick and the Georgia Bulldog, or do you want to just come play for money? If you want to just come play for money, this is not the program for you. Mm. And it would have been just straight, just like that. People come to Georgia because they want to play for the University of Georgia. That loyalty and that blood runs deep. Yes. So he would have used that, and then his record in himself speaks for itself. So it would have been like, okay, I know I can get a lot of money elsewhere, but it's more It's more to me to get developed than just chasing the money, because the money's going to come, right? You skip that development, then you're going to skip the whole process.
So, Orson, I've got 3 questions left for you. Then we'll let you get out of here. The first one, that 10-game win streak in 2011 helped you win the SEC East and earned a trip to Atlanta to play LSU in the SEC championship game. What do you remember most about playing in the SEC championship game?
We should have won. Like, we should have won, and I believe we were just so happy to be there and get there,
Right.
that we might have just been gassed out, because it took a lot for us to show up each and every week. And once again, like I don't like talking about it, because it comes off as making an excuse, because everybody had to go through 13 games in order to get there.
Right.
But I believe that we was exhausted, we was tired, and we were just happy to be there.
Right.
And if we would have treated that game just like we would have treated all those other games, then we would have won that game.
Right.
We just needed to hit them in their mouth for 4 quarters, and if it needed to be another quarter, hit them in their mouth again and play Georgia football.
Yeah. So, Orson, let's move to the bowl game. Your final game at Georgia. You guys went toe-to-toe in the Outback Bowl with Big Ten's Michigan State for 3 overtimes. Talk about that game in the Outback Bowl, and especially how exhausting it is to play 3 overtimes.
Why are we going in overtime with a team that does not belong on the same field as us?
Right.
And I played with so many of those guys that I'm like, I do not like y'all, because I lost my last final game as a college player to y'all. And they switched. I remember they switched their deep. So what we were preparing for, they switched it up. And I think it just took us too long to adjust, because I want to say we was winning and they came back, but I believe it took us too long to adjust. They switched their whole defense up. So everything that we've been practicing, they had completely switched it up, to the point where I don't even think that we saw them play this type of defense based off of watching their film. So it kind of caught us off guard. And then we was in Tampa, so it was hot, and it was, yeah, we fought a good fight. We fought a good fight. But we definitely should have won that game.
Orson, what's the one question you get asked the most from Georgia fans?
Was Coach Rick hard enough as a coach? I get it defensive, because it's like, hey, stop listening to what people say. You have to be in that locker room. Obviously, when things go south, the head coach has to take the blame. But it's so many red tape and underlying things that a lot of people just don't talk about. If anything, when I tell them the years that I played, they always go back to, with Coach Rick fault. Hey, was he a hard enough coach?
So, Orson, my final question for you, and this has been an awesome interview. Out of all of your time of playing college and the NFL, which game that you played in college meant the most to you, and which game in the NFL that you played in meant the most to you, and why?
To be honest, I'm going to have one answer for both.
Okay.
And it was anytime I was able to put that shoulder pad and jersey and helmet on. Because I just represented myself. I was representing my tribe. I was fighting with my brothers. So they knew the moment that I crossed that line, that we may have been fighting in practice, because I go 1,000 miles for practice, and it's only because I want everybody to be great. But the moment that we cross that line and play somebody else, I'll do every and anything my brother and for the team so we could win. So every game was equally important. It didn't matter who we played.
So, Orson, look, man, I have thoroughly enjoyed this interview. I know Heath has as well. If you would, please let everybody know here in Tuscaloosa where they can follow your organizations and where they can keep up with you on social media.
Oh, thank you for that. So my website is www.orsoncharles.com, and you'll see all the initiatives that we have with the nonprofit. My social media is O__Charles, CHARLES. And then our Instagram for the foundation is OC Fam Foundation, where you'll see some of the events that we have coming up and some of the things that we've already done.
Well, Orson, the floor is all yours for anything else that you would like to say.
I thank y'all for having me, and I thank y'all for creating this show, because it's definitely good to get just insights on other players' perspective, because a lot of times the media does just say whatever the media does to portray what's going on. So for you to create this platform, for y'all to create this platform to get an insight on the real story is commendable. So I appreciate what y'all are doing.
Thank you, man. Yes, go Dogs, my friend.
Appreciate the kind words, Orson.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, I gotta go.
Okay. Well, Orson, thank you, and we would love to catch up with you during the football season to talk a little Dogs football.
Let me know.
Take care, Orson. Thank you again.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up the interview there with Orson Charles. Really do want to thank him for taking time out of his schedule to join us, as he is a business owner. But man, was he an awesome football player as well.
Oh, man, yeah. Orson Charles, got to play with Aaron Murray in high school and followed Aaron. And I don't know if Aaron came first or if Orson came first, but they both played together at Georgia as well. So that's got to be special. That you spend all those years in high school getting ready, and then you get to go to college and do the same thing at a bigger on a bigger stage at a bigger level. So what a neat story to hear Orson tell all those things about Coach Rick, his playing days in the NFL, summer camps, and all the fun.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up another edition of the Stingray Show. Hope you have thoroughly enjoyed it talking with a former Georgia player. When we come back tomorrow evening, we're going to have yet another interview or storytelling show, as Heath likes to call it, and we will be back tomorrow evening at our normal time of 6 p.m. right here on the Stingray Show. Have a wonderful day tomorrow, and hope you have thoroughly enjoyed the Orson Charles interview.
We are the ballad of sports talk radio, Stephen.
Yes.